What's up guys, CM back again. First time I've actually properly made a video in quite a while now. And today I'm going to be going over NANI, the tier 7 Japanese heavy tank. Now I've actually played a few matches in this now, and I'm going to say this is it's definitely going to be the start of better, I say better, but still not good for the game overall, but one of the better ones of the line tier for tier. And for a couple of reasons. I'm going to start with the armor. First off, I'll start with the turret. So your cupola is 150 all around in terms of thickness. It's pretty small, so hitting it is going to be a problem, especially if you're above your enemies, so that's really difficult for them to do. Your frontal armor is pretty good against things that are lower tier. Most of the time they're not going to be able to penetrate frontal armor. They do have to get quite, and also if they're at range, they're probably not going to hit the weak spots very often, which are here, 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 and here. With, I guess you could call this area slightly weak against premium ammo, but you know, they still have to get pretty lucky to pen that. And this is of course facing frontally. Your frontal armor is of course where it's going to be. Don't want to be angling this at all, because well, that's when shoulders start getting pretty weak. The more you angle, while your upper plate and your front does become pretty strong, and your mini turrets become slightly stronger as well, it really only makes here and here weak spots on those. It does also give people the options of here, and also tracking you. Tracking you is very easy to do. Well, tracking the Oni is very easy, as you can see. Where the drive wheel is, got 40mm of spaced armor, then only 42mm of armor. That's actually the same all along the bottom. It's basically, this tank has the only, while it is listed as having 70mm of armor in the garage, that's only on this bit here, as you can see. Upper part. Everywhere else below that is 35mm, 40mm of spaced armor. In some places, a couple of 35mm and 40mm layers where the track and the side skirt join. But it's very, very weak, and you can be tracked and penned at some very, very awkward angles. You don't, like if you're coming around a corner and you're at this angle, someone is track you. So that's kind of awkward. As for the rear armor is actually stronger than the side. It's 150 on the rear of the tank, on the ass, and the turret is the rest of the turret is 150 all the way around, apart from just left or right of the gun, which is 200. Obviously, the gun mantlet you're never going to pen there. Maybe if you have a gun that has over 210mm of pen, you could get through here if you're lucky, but obviously you don't want to be aiming there or everywhere else. So that's pretty much the armor covered. Pretty much good frontally, not great everywhere else. And the problem is with this tank, when it comes to that, is that you have these mini turrets here which also hamper your gun depression. While this tank does have 10 degrees of gun depression, over those mini turrets, over this one here, you can see it goes down to 5 degrees, and over most of it it's 6 degrees, and over the other one it's 5 degrees for most of that, and a tiny bit of 6 degrees. Then by the time you get over it, there's your 10 again. So that can mean that hitting targets in front of you can be a bit awkward. So you kind of have to do what the E50 used to have to do, and kind of turn to the side a bit, which does make it a bit problematic for your armor, because that's when it becomes weak. There we go. There we go. And there we go. And that makes it very easy for people to track you at this point if you're above them, especially on higher ground. So I think that's as much as I need to really say about the armor. There's not really a whole lot to go over. It's basically battering ram, W key, straightforward, and hope that people don't load the 2-key ammo and then shoot either here or here or here, or just try and track you. That means you've got time to then reload your Derp gun, or even your 10cm gun, and I'll go over those just now. I'm going to start with the Derp gun. This is the one that most people use, and it's also the most fun. And, well, it's a Derp gun, let's face it, they're fun to use, regardless of what you have. Sure, they're not always the most balanced, especially the tier 9 and 10 Japanese heavies. Those ones are incredibly broken, and that's for another time though. But this one, it's basically just the KV2 Derp gun, but the Japanese version. Obviously you can get this gun on the tier 6 OI, which these days is a horrendously bad tank for its tier as far as the Japanese heavies go. It's I think they nerfed the shit out of the OI just a bit too much. As for the ONI though, I would say this thing's actually probably it's good for Japanese heavy. It's definitely better than the OI, and I think tier for tier it is actually better than the OHO. And the reason for that is armor actually does work, because you actually do face tier 5s and 6 a lot, and as far as tier 8 goes, tier 8 sees a lot of tier 10, and which is why the OHO is no longer that particularly good. Anyway, Derp gun on the ONI, without any extras. This is with a 100% crew, no extras, no equipment, no food, no brothers in arms. You've got a 22-second reload. You do get AP, you get heat, and you get HE as your shell choices. AP is 121 pen. It's not really going to go through a whole lot unless you get the side or rear. Or if you have it loaded and you know you're going to be shooting at close range at the roof of let's say an IS-3 turret, that's maybe an opportunity for you to use it. Maybe if you're trying to overmatch a Swedish tank destroyer, that's another chance you could use it. But other than that, you don't really want to be using the AP. Maybe like I say, keep a few for when you have to overmatch things, but you don't want to be using that most of the time. Now the heat, that is actually semi-useful. 150 pen, sure, but that's at any distance. And it's better against angled armor because from tanks, the auto bounce angle for heat is 80 degrees versus 70 for AP and APCR. So what you can do with this is, if you run out of AP, you can still use it to go through Swedish TDs if you're against ones such as the Des or the SDRV S1. I wouldn't think it would have much of a chance of going through the tier 9, but you could always try. But the good thing about this is that you're going to see this actually in the match that I'm actually going to show you, that at close range, if you're able to blast this into very flat armor, or even against armor that is, is relatively thin or weak spots, this is useful, because this optimizes the damage that you do in situations where you need it to, like where HE wouldn't pen, so it would maybe do about 300, for example. You'd be doing double the amount with this, and you're going to see this. It's going to be important in some situations, so do make sure you carry some of these as well. Sure, they cost a lot, but you're going to be thanking yourself in the end. And then, of course, the HE, which is 75mm of pen, any range, and of course it has the higher alpha damage of 910 versus the 700 of the AP and heat. Of course, the HE, you want to be firing more than anything else with this gun, because, well, let's face it, you're going to want to have that consistent damage, and it is fairly consistent because, well, it's high explosive. The problem is that against things like the Moistion or other Japanese heavies, it's not going to do quite as much, but you're going to want to use this because, well, you don't have to worry about bouncing most of the time, and the other two shells will. And when you compare this gun to the top 100mm gun, 10cm gun, you're going to see that this is probably the better one to choose, especially considering that you're going to be seeing a lot of tier 8s and tier 9s as well. And you're still going to want to use the HE against lower tiers, well, especially not always are you going to be able to use AP and so honestly this is the gun I would go with, like I say, but I'm going to go over the other one just to show you what you've got as an option. So this is the 10cm experimental gun. 330 alpha on your AP shells. Yes, AP, premium AP, not APCR or heat. And 190 on standard, 215 on premium. That's pretty low for premium, to be honest. But again, it's not too dissimilar from the Russian 122mm guns that you get at this tier anyway, which have 217, so it's roughly the same as that. Shell velocity is actually relatively low, so that's not great. The 190 pen on AP is actually quite nice. That puts it almost the same as the T29 for standard ammo pen, which is nice. The 330 alpha is also nice. The reload is not great. The DPM is not particularly amazing on this gun, but it's definitely a more accurate gun than the Derp gun. However, the soft stats will mean you will be aiming for quite a while anyway. So, and also the aim time is pretty bad, so there's that. But it is better at range than the big Derp gun. However, I would say that this gun, not quite as fun. It's probably more consistent, but you're going to find yourself wishing you had the Derp gun when you're fighting tier 9s. Especially things like T54s, things like VK4502B, like the Motion, things, even tier 8s like the VK100, you're going to find yourself wishing you had the Derp gun. Purely because that large caliber HE is going to prove very, very useful. Especially when it comes to doing module damage, which you're going to want to do against those higher tiers. Because that's probably going to be the best way for you to maximize the damage you're going to do against them. You're going to want to damage modules like fuel tanks, engines, set them on fire, and maybe damage an ammo rack with an explosion, maybe kill crew. That's what you want to be that's what you want to be doing in your tier 7 tanks when you're bottom tier, or when you're fighting higher tiers in general. Anyway, enough of the stats part. Just about. A couple of things left to go over actually. Of course, it is big and slow. 25 kilometers an hour top speed. Just under 12 horsepower per ton power to weight. Which is actually not bad for such a big tank. This actually gets up to its top speed pretty well. Terrain resistances, actually not that bad. You definitely see a lot worse terrain resistances on some mediums at this tier. It actually turns relatively quickly for something of its size as well, so you can bring your armor to bear relatively quickly compared to some other super heavies. And the 10 degrees of gun depression, albeit not over the whole tank, is kind of useful at times. It's also got a good slug of hit points at 1550. I believe that's the highest at tier 7. Used to be the Tiger 1 that used to have the highest hit point pool of 1500, but now it's the Oni. Obviously, modules are fairly healthy on this thing. It is a big tank, so obviously you're going to expect the modules to be. View range is nice at 380 as well. It means that if you are trying to outplay other heavies, like let's say an IS, that 380 view range is actually going to come in handy. You're probably going to outspot them most of the time. And it does kind of make sense. You've got a lot of viewports on the tank, so it does mean there's a lot of opportunities out of the tank, which does make sense. It does have quite a high fire chance compared to some other tanks, so that's generally the case with these Japanese heavies, though. Though this doesn't really matter in the end. That can be bumped up by people having the Deadeye perk and hitting your engine or fuel tanks, things like that. And also HE doesn't really care. Obviously HE doesn't get affected by the Deadeye perk, but it doesn't really care anyway. It does carry plenty of shells. 100 shells is pretty nice for the 10cm, and with the Derp gun it carries 60, which is still really good. So, you know, it's a pretty damn flexible tank overall, all things considered. Anyway, moving on to the replay. So here we are on Redshire, and as you can see, it's a tier 8 match in 357 matchmaking, and this is gonna kind of show what this tank can do in high pressure situations, where you have to be dealing the damage, and also what this tank can do RNG. So the enemy team have an IS-3, an ISU-152 and a Batchat 12T as their top tiers. Ours are an IS-3 as well. We get a Scorpion G, however, and we also get a Batchat. Tier 7s, they have a T-29, a Tiger 1, a Comet, an AMX-1375, and a GW Panther. Quick spoiler, we're going to be seeing that 1375 later on. You're going to see him. And our tier 7s, an IS, myself, and T-43, T-71, the autoloading version, and then the Crusader SP artillery. And of course we've got a whole mess of tier 6s, including an OI, a T-3485M, an AMX-12T, M44 for artillery, and a box tank, and a flat panzer. And of course the enemy team have an M6, looks like they've got a poodle, and oh look, there's the AMX-1375, oh, well would you look at that. Yeah, that's what this gun can do. It produces results very similar to the KV-2, and it looks like this Comet also wants a bit of the same, except unfortunately for us, we're not going to get that chance because, well, yeah, he did not have a good time. I think it was both myself and the T-43 that were spotting him there. Meanwhile, on the other side, I don't know what happening with the box tank. He's not happy with someone on the team. Meanwhile, enemy IS-3 spotted. He's got the stock turret, hence the 1450 hit points. Our IS-3 a big hit. That is the ISU-152, who is getting in there and getting stuck in. Enemy VK-36 pops over, gets obliterated by all the tanks waiting to shoot someone. ARL V39, T29, and a Dicker Max also here with the ISU. Our IS-3 now on very low hit points. He is not having a good time at all. I'm going up here with our IS, who proceeds to lose half his hit points. Now I start poking over here. I see the Dicker Max, fires AP, bounces, and HE into his lower plate. Of course, this thing is an artillery magnet, so it blasts me for a couple of hundred. Our OI just blasts the ISU, and now now I'm loading heat. This is actually one of these situations where you want to be loading heat. You see that the ISU is on 616 hit points. This heat shell has 700 alpha, and that is quite a threatening tank, especially when it's top tier. Because that 260 pen with that 152mm gun is very, very, very effective in this matchmaking. Aiming up at the ARL V39, but artillery shooting me again, so I decide not to take the shot because it would likely have missed due to the stun. Not sure why the Batchat 12T is here from the enemy team, but he's going to regret his life choices very soon. Enemy M6 goes down to our OI, and the Batchat decides he tracked me. That is a mistake. And yeah, there goes all his hit points. And that's what he gets for trying that. We do take a shot from the ARL V39, unfortunately, but it was due to us angling a bit. He gets stunned. The ISU is here trying to shoot the IS here still. And now we're reloaded. We're keeping an eye on that Batchat though, because he doesn't want to try and climb over there. Fortunately for us, you can't climb over there, regardless of tank. IS fires, ISU pops round, we can see him. Definitely pen there, that's only about 120 effective, and it goes through, and we take him out. Now at this point I had forgotten that I'd actually left loaded. I was more focusing on getting things killed. So IS-3 there, 482 hit points, and of course heat shell into the back, finishes him off without any trouble whatsoever. And of course we're winning quite well at this point. Not a particularly close match at all. And now we've got the ARL V39 and the Tiger 1 in front of us. ARL bounces, Tiger bounces, and now we just take our time. And by this point I have realised that I've got heat loaded, but it means that I can maximise the damage I can get from this match. And there goes the Tiger, there goes the enemy AMX-12T, and that is the end of the match. 3,800 damage. 700 spotting, 4 kills. This was an ace tanker, a steel ball, and a high caliber. So I'd say this is a pretty okay-ish example of the Oni kind of working pretty well. You do want to be playing it as a support tank. You cannot play... Well, you want to play as a support tank a lot of the time. Of course, you've got that long reload. You do still have a long reload with the smaller gun as well. And both guns are pretty derpy. So what you want to be doing a lot is kind of making sure that the enemy bounces off you, and then your teammates blast them. That's kind of how you want to be playing this. You're the armor. And a lot of the time, you could see that that was the case. 2,400 blocked is not bad at all. And especially when there's an ISU there. So not only do you want to be bouncing the shots, but you want to take any opportunity to finish off low health tanks with that HE. You want to be using that heat and AP up close and personal into weak spots or into weaker armor. Make sure you can sap as many hit points as possible while you are also bouncing shots in return. I would not recommend side scraping with this thing, of course. Armor layout does kind of prevent that. But you can sort of facehug things if they're tall enough. If you're fighting things like a Tiger 2, you can go you can facehug them and then shoot AP into their turret roof. That is a tactic you can use, because if you're both on full health and you're doing that, they do not have the DPM to kill you before you do the same to them. Obviously, you're dishing out 700 alpha, they're dishing out maybe 300, 320. That's definitely a tactic you can use against a Tiger, well, a Tiger 1 or Tiger 2 even. You can facehug those tanks to death in this thing. But otherwise, I would not recommend facehugging anything. Again, this is probably one of the better Japanese heavies tier for tier. I would, like, here's the thing about this tank compared to the tier 9. Tier 9 sees tier 10, sees tier 9, everything will go through it, because they'll all Yuki. The tier 10s obviously fares a bit better than the tier 9 in that regard. But the thing is, with those two tanks, it's the gun that's broken more than the armor. Of course, the armor is ridiculous on both, but anything else in those two? Well, whereas this thing, I feel it's actually got a relatively okay balance between armor, gun, not overly mobile. It got weak spots that actually work as weak spots, and it has tanks that actually counter it. Smaller tanks that can get alongside it can hug it to death. Like if you get, let's say, hell, even a T-50, the tier 5 Russian light tank, if that gets along your side and you've not really got a wall to squish him against, you're gone. You're dead. So, yeah, it's definitely a tank that can be countered, but also it's a tank that doesn't suffer quite the same as the tier 9 and 10 as gold spam goes. So, that's pretty much all I have to say on this tank. It's fun, for sure. It's not overly slow either. Unlike the tier 6, which I'll do a video on some other time. Anyway guys, that's all from me. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time.